Hello, everyone at Jubilee Academy. Thank you so much for submitting your questions, your weather questions. Love to answer questions. Of course, now what I've done is basically taken a random sample of your questions, pulled like 6 or 7 out of the hat, and those are the ones I'm going to answer. So I didn't do it in any order, with any regard for anything other than just randomness. So I'm going to pick a few and we're going to go ahead and answer those. Give you a little background about myself. Right now I'm in the Weather Center here at CBS4. You can see some of my weather computers and all that behind me. And it's a really fun job. I have more fun than I should be allowed to have. I've been doing this for I've been in television for about 32 years, and I've been doing weather for about 26 of those 32 years. I went back to school to become a meteorologist. I started in the business as a reporter way back when in the 80s, and then I went back to school and became a meteorologist. So here I am. I came to the Valley in 1999 to become the chief meteorologist here at then KGBT, and now I am the chief meteorologist here at CBS4. And loving every minute of it. I've worked with some great people and continue to work with some great people here and have a great time just doing the weather. I get to put a lot of myself into the product. I get to have a lot of say-so and control into what goes on in my weathercast and what I do in terms of covering severe weather and special reports like our hurricane special, all of that. I have a lot of say in that, and I really appreciate that that position that I have. So I'm enjoying myself to no end. My wife is an administrator with the Harlingen School District, and my daughter attends Harlingen High. My son is a law student at University of Houston. So, wow, that's pretty much what I do, and here I am. Now I'd like to go ahead and answer some of your questions. And again, I picked them randomly, but I gotta lie to you. I'm lying to you just a little bit. I did select Nevia's card because she put a little flower over her name. See, you stand out, you get picked. So there you go. So all of them are random except Nevia's, whom I saw the little flower. Nevia asks, how do you know if a tsunami is going to come or not? Well, a tsunami is generated by an earthquake out at sea. In that we are near the Gulf of Mexico, it would be a fairly rare event for an earthquake to impact the seafloor of the Gulf of Mexico. So the Gulf of Mexico is not really a hotbed for tectonic activity like earthquakes. But if that were to happen, the United States Geological Survey out of Colorado monitors the entire planet for earthquake activity. And trust me, they're good. They know their business. And we would find out almost immediately that an earthquake had happened and that we would need to put out an alert for a tsunami that would probably only impact the lower valley like the coast, Brownsville, South Padre Island and whatnot. But that's a pretty rare thing for around these parts. The folks in like Hawaii have to worry about those quite a bit. But anyway, so that's why I picked your card, and that's an answer to your question, I hope. Now, the camera's kind of jiggly because I'm holding on to it. But basically, this is our studio. I'm in a chair that has a little swing on it. And so there's another set of ours over there, and it's a huge studio. And then, of course, we've got my weather set. That's the green wall where I do the weather over there. And again, part of the news set where the news anchors do their thing. And then my weather set, I'll back away from it so you can see the whole thing. My weather set is over here. So you can see it's fairly large. And I get to work on multiple computers. And I have a ball doing that. So let's answer some more questions before we carry on. Eliana, you put a little heart on yours. That's kind of cute, like that. All right, where do you go to study the weather? Well, I'm going to take the question two ways. I go to study the weather on a daily basis through my computers and the weather sources and data sources that I have. But I also will take your question as to mean, where do you actually study meteorology to get a degree? And the best school in the state of Texas to do that is Texas A&M University. And the best school in the country is University of Oklahoma to do that. But there are tons of different schools around, and including the military. They have a great program for learning meteorology as well. So there's all kinds of ways to do that. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Ezekiel, let's see now what you got. How do you know the weather? Well, I have several computer systems, and I'm just going to go ahead and we'll go down here down the row. I have several different systems which allow me to access information about the weather. And see, now there's a graphic I just generated myself. I do all my own work. I do all my own forecasting. I don't let other people do my forecasting and then go on TV and tell people, well, here's what I know. I do some of my own forecasting, a lot of it. I also utilize forecast data from the National Weather Service, and some. I look at their forecasting as well, and also several other sources. Now, I look at stuff like this. You know, an analysis of the atmosphere. It tells me what I can expect will happen in the atmosphere here in the Rio Grande Valley. And again, that allows me to then put together, will it be sunny? Will it be rainy? Are we going to have storms? Is there a hurricane coming our way? All of that I get off these computers. So, moving on. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Ashanti? Hope so. How many times do you have to check the weather in one day? Oh, well, the computer forecast models, which are, I'm going to explain that in the best I can. The National Weather Service is all over the country. They have offices all over the country. And they have a way of gathering weather information at different levels in the atmosphere in many different places around the country, including here in the Rio Grande Valley. And then every day, 4 times a day, the big supercomputers that put forecast models together spit that information out about 4 times a day. So we check those 4 times a day. We also check what's going on in our local area constantly, over the every couple of hours, and make sure we're doing it right. So it's really a 24-hour thing. Jim Danner, my morning guy, he's in here by 2 o'clock in the morning. So he's checking things, and then he leaves like around noon. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I come in right after that, and then I'm checking things, and we're looking at hiring a new weekend person, and I'm hoping that the person I want is going to take the job. So stand by for that later on. So that's what we do. We check it all the time. Now, Liam, I want to know what types of cool tools you use for the weather. Again, my tools are all computer related in terms of finding out what the information is all about, what information is coming in, what's it all about, how does it pertain to our local forecast, all of that through different systems. And I showed you the one analysis there. I've got more. I've got just the forecast information that might come down. I've also got maps that come down to tell me what's going on. Again, I'm sorry for the camera being all jiggly, but I want you to be able to see all this. And what else do I have? More information quite like that. Here's some. It's just raw numbers that I'm able to look at and say, hey, here's what's going on in the Rio Grande Valley. So yeah, it can be a little mind-numbing in terms of all the information, but those are the tools I use. Now, there are other tools that the National Weather Service uses, from radar and LIDAR and anemometers, thermometers, barometers, all those cool tools, little spinny cups that tell us how fast the wind's blowing and whatnot. So, and the weather balloons that are released that have the little box on them called a radiosonde. The weather balloon goes up thousands and thousands of feet, and the little box is able to tell what's going on, measure the atmosphere, and then it radios back what it knows so that we can then decide what's going on in the atmosphere. So there's all kinds of cool stuff that way too. But I don't have hands-on with that stuff. The men and women at the National Weather Service, there's an office in Brownsville, they have access to that stuff. Emma wants to know, where do we go when there's a hurricane? Well, hopefully far away and away. But there are many times a Category 1 hurricane will come and people decide, or a tropical storm, and people will decide not to evacuate. We really didn't have any evacuations in Hurricane Dolly back in 2008. And that was a Category 2 storm when it made landfall just for a short time, primarily a Category 1. But it stalled over, the eye wall stalled over Harlingen. It made a horrible mess. So A lot of people were thinking, hey, we should have evacuated. Yeah, evacuation, of course, includes going out to the Upper Valley, McAllen, and more to the west, and toward Laredo, and maybe up toward San Antonio. But famously in 1967, when Beulah hit, Hurricane Beulah came on shore here in the valley, and then went on up toward the hill country and generated a record number of hurricane-induced tornadoes in the San Antonio area. So folks escaped the hurricane here only to be battered by tornadoes and up toward the hill country. So sometimes you can't win for losing, but most times, yes, you just go west toward Laredo or north toward San Antonio. All right, Jesse, you got the last question here. Let's see what we got. How long does it take to predict weather? It takes me, I get in about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a good day. If the weather's bad, I come in a lot earlier and stay a lot later. But it takes me a good 2-3 hours to put a show together, to put a forecast together, and then put a show together. Because, like I say, I generate graphics like this myself. You know, I do my own work. I don't let the computers do the work for me. Always. I mean, sometimes I get lazy and do a little bit of that, but overall, no. I do my own work. So about 2.5 hours, and then I'll spend another hour putting the 6 o'clock together because it utilizes a lot of the same information, and then another hour or so putting the 10 o'clock together. I also do, public appearances. I also do other stuff, the internet, social media. Putting out information on social media, which is new to me. I'm 52 years old. I did not grow up with things like Twitter and Facebook, so yeah, it's been a learning curve to say the least. See, we're always learning. That's another sidebar for you here in this presentation. In answering your questions, I'll tell you that if you think you're going to graduate, go to college and graduate, and then stop learning, forget it. You're going to keep on learning and keep on learning, and wow. The television business is nothing like it was when I got into it in the 80s. So we're always learning, that's for sure. Look, I hope I've answered your questions to your satisfaction, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present to your class and let you know some of the things I do and what I know. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me. Let's see, I am bhale@nextstar.com. .tv. We just got new owners, that's why. So I'll be sure to pass it on to your teacher, exactly where you can reach me via email. So anyway, having said that, thanks for letting me into your class, and I hope you've enjoyed coming on into my weather center. Who's to say that if you ever want to do an on the road, and you can convince your teacher to stuff you in a school bus and come on over here to CBS 4, I'd be happy to show you around firsthand. So consider that. Anyway, the invitation's always open. Thanks for having me.